Assalamualaikum, Greens of Peace. My name is Hafsa Siddiqui and I'm your host for YATA Talks. Today in the studio with us is Dr. Tabassum Hussain to talk to us about what it was like being a young woman growing up in Western society as a Muslim. So, Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know that you've been on the show before, but for our guests who haven't seen you, just give us a little bit information on yourself.
Okay, I have a PhD in neuroscience. I was a research doctor for a while. I'm retired now. I've put my full passion into raising my son and into engaging in activities pertaining to my religion, Islam. So I'm a member of the Muslim Debate Initiative, which provides a platform for debate on issues pertaining to feminism, modernism, Christianity, Islam, and I'm also a member of the Street Dawah Toronto team. We engage street level, basically engaging with the public, handing out information on Islam and engaging in conversation. I'm also a semi-regular volunteer at our local mosque, Tariq Mosque, here in the Greater Toronto area.
Alrighty, so tell us a little bit about your background, where your family is from. As I know you are someone who's grown up in the Western world, but tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I was born and raised in the UK. I was born in East London, on the Whitechapel Road, London Hospital. And I grew up in East London, but most of my life I grew up in North London, mostly around an Orthodox Jewish community and non-Muslim community. And yeah, I've gone through the school system, I've gone through the university system, and here I am today, living in Canada for the past 9 years.
Well, as you know, today some people feel that they have a bit of disconnect balancing their culture of both sides, both their parents' culture and their own culture, and at the same time balancing their religion. So as a young woman, especially to you, how did you find yourself dealing with balancing all these different things?
Okay, so the imbalance wasn't so much there in the early days, because I can tell you that my parents were full-time, low-skilled labourers. So unfortunately, they couldn't afford time for parenting. We didn't have Islam in the house where we were anyone was visibly praying, wearing the hijab or reading the Quran. But we knew we were Muslim. Our parents would teach us right from wrong. But that was the extent of it, and we'd eat halal food, and that was the extent of it. The community I grew up, all the communities I grew up basically were non-Muslim. We'd have the odd 1 or 2 Muslims in my primary school, secondary school, and that was it. So that was the type of upbringing I had. It was in my teens that I hit a bit of a identity crisis, as we all do in our teens. You're trying to understand what you represent. So it was ironically Jehovah's Witnesses coming to our door repeatedly in the UK, that I'd welcome them in and I'd chat with them. And it was only when they started challenging me on Islam and me being Muslim that, I was compelled to think, okay, well, who am I as a Muslim? What does Islam represent? And ironically, the first book I picked up was the Bible. So now I had to find my Muslim identity, which was different from my cultural identity, which I grew up with. And the cultural identity I grew up with was that of the home, which was the Pakistani culture. And that would be on the weekends or, the holidays. And the majority of the time, my cultural identity was anything outside of the home, which was what we identify as Western culture. So now here was another thing thrown into the mix in my teens, which is, what is the Muslim identity? So how I've balanced it, and I'm still balancing it, you continue to grow, you continue to learn, is I love the best of what both cultures have to offer. So whether you're Arab, Somali, Pakistani, South American, Italian, Muslim, whatever, I would say, I was able to enjoy the best of both cultures within the confines and within the beautiful barriers that I found of Islam. So I'm Muslim first, and my culture is second, and anything else is third.
Alright, so you talk about how you're Muslim first and anything second, so I assume that you enjoyed your culture, but everything that was allowed inside of Islam is how you enjoyed it. So can you explain a bit about that?
Yes, just before I do that, just to clarify, I know there are going to be trolls out there saying, "Oh well, what's she doing here in Canada or in Britain? You know, if she doesn't like it, go home." You know, well, my home is in England, right? So I'm at home, and I'm at home in Canada. But what I mean when I say, you know, I'm Muslim first, is for me being Muslim isn't putting me into a capsule or cutting me off with a border and a passport. Being Muslim to me means the whole world is my home, and the whole world, the global, you know, it's a global family. I can go to Italy and still think of the people as my, you know, brothers and sisters in humanity as a Muslim. I'm not cut off by borders or flags or culture or nationality. Okay, so I'll give you one example. I can be a Muslim. I can go out on holiday to somewhere like Italy. I can enjoy the Roman ruins, and when it's time for prayer, I take a 5-minute break. Doesn't matter where I am, in the park, in the Roman ruins, and I'm praying. And that's my Islam. I'm out in a restaurant. I will be able to eat halal meat and enjoy that part of the culture that I grew up with, that my parents didn't enjoy, you know. I can go out and, you know, enjoy, I don't know, go-karting, whitewater rafting. I've done whitewater rafting, I've done horse riding. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. If you can find something which is wholesome and which doesn't compromise your religion, then why not?
Of course. So everything has its pros and cons. So
Yes.
what would you say some of the pros would be growing up as a young woman in the West with the Muslim identity?
Okay, so I could say sort of I was able to experience both sides of the fence because I was learning. I've always been in that learning process, but it wasn't until my 30s I donned the hijab, and that's when people outside of me saw me as a Muslim, saw me as a believing woman. And you know, putting the hijab on also changes you inside. It's not just a cloth on your head. It changes the way you are instinctively pushed to behave. You have to watch what you say. Don't use foul language. And that changes you a lot. You know, that experience changes you a lot. You know, this is how I found my identity as a Muslim. At the same time, I found that my friends, my non-Muslim friends, were very accommodating. I didn't find any peer pressure. And if I did have peer pressure on those odd occasions, I wouldn't challenge it as much as I would, you know, just sit back and observe it. And I would stick to my guns, basically. You know, I think in the world we're living in, it's very fast. People are very quickly sucked into opinions and trends. I think it's very important to sit down, to think about something, to research something, and to understand it, and really truly believe in it with a passion. And that's how you enjoy it as well. It's not just about putting on a face. It's about actually enjoying it from the inside out and from the outside in.
Well, thank you so much. And due to time, I do have to wrap up. But I want to ask you really quickly, just give a message to the young women watching who feel that they're not able to balance both their deen and their dunya. So what do you have to say to them?
Okay, for those who are challenged out there when it comes to deen and dunya, I mean, in Islam there's worldly and there's our religion, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, said take the middle path, and that middle path is keeping a balance, and that balance is there as long as you do not compromise your Islam. You know, just keep a self-check, enjoy that which is permitted, and really be proactive about saying no. You know, like you have this thing about saying no to drugs, saying no to drinking and driving. I would say as a Muslim woman, you know, there are certain things in Islam that are underappreciated by us as Muslim women. And really, if you look at those things, read about your religion, read about what it says, you know, forget the isms, and really you'll find that beautiful balance once you connect with the God who created you, because he is the best psychologist out there. And that book of psychology that is in your hands, that's you. That's God talking to you, and that's where you can find a balance and your identity.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
If you're interested in getting in contact with Sister Tabassum, or you're interested in asking her questions, click the links below. Keep sending us your emails, keep sending us your questions. And I'm Hafsa Siddiqui, your host for YATA Talks.